From the 1930s to the present day, athletes, coaches, and officials from all across Northwestern Ontario have left their mark on the Summer and Winter Olympic and Paralympic Games. Kenora's Victor Lindquist blazed the trail for local athletes as the region's first Olympian, claiming hockey gold for Canada at the 1932 Games in Lake Placid and attending the 1936 Games in Garmisch-Partenkirchen as the coach of the Swedish team. When the 1936 Winter Olympic Games opened in Germany, a number of athletes from Northwestern Ontario marched into the stadium, all returning home with Olympic medals. The majority of the silver medal-winning Canadian Olympic hockey team was made up of players from Port Arthur, including Norman Nummy Friday, Alex Sinclair, Bill Thompson, Jakey Nash, Arnold Deacon, Gus Saxberg, Ray Milton, and Jimmy Haggerty, and serving behind the bench were Port Arthur coach Albert Puttis, manager Malcolm Cochran, and trainer Wally Scotty Stewart. The 1936 gold medal-winning hockey team from Great Britain was coached by Percy Nicklin of Fort William and included players Gerald Davey of Port Arthur and Johnny Coward of Fort Francis. 4 years later, it was another group of hockey players from Port Arthur who had their sights set on Olympic gold. The members of the 1939 Port Arthur Bearcats claimed the Allen Cup title and earned the right to represent Canada at the 1940 Olympics, only to have their dreams dashed with the cancellation of those games due to the outbreak of World War II. By 1960, we were back on Olympic ice, with Bill McKenzie being named as one of 2 Canadian referees to oversee the games in Squaw Valley. Local resident Joe Workinen served as the coach of the 1960 and 64 Finnish Olympic hockey teams. In 1964, Henry Hank Ackerville captained the Canadian hockey team in Innsbruck, which included Port Arthur's Dave Merrifield. The 1968 Grenoble Games saw John Kubinick behind the whistle as a hockey referee and Fred Page serving as the director of hockey, a duty he carried out again in 1972 in Sapporo. By the 1960s and 70s, skiing was becoming a sport in which we would see a great deal of Olympic involvement. In 1964, Frank Gartrell became our first ski jumper to be named to an Olympic team, and Mike Gazelle served as our region's first ski jumping judge. The 1976 Innsbruck Games saw crazy Canuck Dave Irwin compete in his first of 2 Olympics. Lyndon McIntosh coached the Canadian women's downhill team, and Dr. George Gwizdecki served as the chief medical officer for the Canadian ski jumping team. The 1960s and 70s saw a number of firsts in our Summer Games history, with Bill Swallock competing in weightlifting at the 1960 Rome Games and 2-time Olympian Don Demansky tearing up the running track in 1968 in Mexico City and 1976 in Montreal. George Saunders became our first Olympic wrestler, taking to the mats at the 1972 Games in Munich. When Canada welcomed the world to Montreal in 1976, our athletes and officials were there as well. Wrestlers Brian Rankin and Steve Danier both earned first-round victories. The Olympic pool was full of our swimmers, including Tom Alexander, Joanne Baker, Andy Ritchie, and Bill Sawchuk. Dryden-born Andy Higgins coached Canada's track and field team at his first of what would be 4 Olympic Games. The boycotted 1980 Summer Games meant a missed opportunity for some of our 1976 Olympians and for rower Kim Gordon, but in 1984 our athletes and coaches were back in action again. It was at the Los Angeles Games that a young cyclist by the name of Kurt Harnett, with coach Harry Curtis by his side, claimed a silver medal in the 1,000-meter time trial.
Coming down into the final bend, Kurt Harnett of Canada. In his first major international competition, the crowd on its feet, urging him on. Go, go, go! 106.436, the best time of the day so far.
This marked the first individual medal from a Summer Olympic Games won by an athlete from Northwestern Ontario. This outstanding athlete went on to compete at 3 more Olympic Games, claiming bronze medals in 1992 and 1996. In 1988 in Seoul, Scott Timmerman competed in cycling, and Michael Smith of Kenora made his first of what would be 3 Olympic appearances, competing in the highly demanding decathlon. Also at the 1988 Games was Sandra Greaves, our first Olympian in the sport of judo, who was joined in 1992 by 2-time Olympic boxer Dominic Hollywood Filane of Scriber and our first Olympic diver Mary DePiro of Thunder Bay. In Paralympic Summer Games competition, Magella Belanger earned our first Paralympic gold medal, doing so in the 100-meter dash in 1980. 3-time Paralympian swimmer Tom Haney of Atikokan brought home an amazing 5 gold medals in 1984 and 4 silver from the 1988 Paralympic Games. Also in the pool at the 88 Games were Thunder Bay athletes Ken Bjorn and Tammy Sage, who also attended the 92 Games, along with Catherine Rutherford. Benny Galati continued our strong Paralympic swimming tradition, competing in Atlanta in 1996. Dryden's Terry Robinson, a 2-time Paralympian, competed in track and field events at the 88 and 92 Games, bringing home a bronze medal in wheelchair bocce from Seoul. The 1980 Winter Games provided the opportunity for a young ski jumper by the name of Steve Collins to begin an Olympic journey which would include 3 trips to the Games and some of the best finishes ever by a Canadian in Olympic ski jumping competition. Also in Lake Placid was John Ritchie, the coach of the Canadian men's ski team, which included Dave Irwin. At the 1984 Games in Sarajevo, local ski jumper David Brown was joined by the region's first Olympic figure skater, Kelly Johnson, who competed in ice dance. When the 1988 Olympics were held in Calgary, a number of individuals from Thunder Bay's ski jumping community were involved, including athletes Steve Collins, Todd Gilman, and Ron Ruccio. Bringing their extensive ski jumping knowledge to the Games were Ernie Marchiori, who served as a judge, and Rob McCormick, who oversaw the event as the chief of competition. In cross-country skiing, Al Maddox served as chief of start and finish at what would be his first of 4 Olympics. It was also at the Calgary Games that a number of athletes became the first from this region to compete in their sport, including Dave Walker in ski ballet and Peter Robertson-Stovall in bobsled, both of whom competed again in Lillehammer. The 1990s saw history repeat itself as our hockey players again brought home Olympic silver medals. In 1992, it was Kevin Dahl of Thunder Bay and Chris Lindbergh of Fort Frances, and in 1994, it was Greg Johnson who contributed to our region's Olympic medal haul. The 1990s also saw the Wirtz family of marathon send a skater and coach to 3 Olympic Games, with Chris Wirtz skating in the pairs event at the 92, 94, and 98 Olympics under the watchful eye of his brother and coach Paul Wirtz. In each Olympic year since 2000, our athletes have never returned home without an Olympic medal. Thunder Bay's Andrea Cole started the ball rolling with her gold and silver medals in swimming at the 2000 Sydney Summer Paralympic Games and kept it going when she added bronze and silver medals in 2004 in Athens. Chris Pronger of Dryden brought home Olympic gold from Salt Lake City in 2002 as a member of Canada's men's hockey team. The 2006 Games in Torino featured first-time Olympians Sean Crooks in cross-country skiing, Eric Stahl in hockey, Jason Mislicki in ski jumping, Amber Peterson freestyle skiing, and an outstanding gold medal performance from Katie Weatherston as a member of Canada's women's hockey team. In 2008, our Olympic pride was kept alive when Liam Parsons rode his way to a bronze medal as a member of Canada's lightweight men's 4 crew in Beijing. For close to 80 years, the citizens of Northwestern Ontario have played a part in forming Canada's Olympic history. Given the outstanding commitment and dedication on the part of our athletes, coaches, and volunteers in the cities and towns all across our region, we will no doubt continue to add more pages to our nation's Olympic story in 2010 and beyond.